Hi, everyone. Welcome to An Honest Look. Today we have a fabulous guest. Her name is Ami Hubbard. I want to welcome her on the show.
Hi, Amy.
Good afternoon, Amy. Is it afternoon for you?
11 a.m. So we're getting there.
Oh, still a.m. Still a.m. And good morning to you, Rick.
Thank
I know
you.
it's an early rise for you.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, not too bad. And I'm still in Eastern Europe in Tallinn. It's almost evening here. So good evening to everyone that's watching from a place where it's evening. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Amy so that you know a little bit about her, and then she's going to go on and tell us about her journey. So Amy is a licensed rapid transformational therapist and has trained with the world-renowned Marissa Peer. She has worked in the wellness industry for the past 22 years and loves to infuse her skills as an energy healer into her transcendent hypnotherapy sessions and coaching services. Her passion is guiding her clients to discover and embody their light so that they can be the most confident version of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that I personally have used Marissa Peer's hypnotherapy sessions. I found them deeply transformative. They really changed my life, to be honest. So really, really believe in the kind of work that you do. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of hypnotherapy. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this with you and hearing a little bit more about your story and how you got here and how you practice all of this with your clients. So I'm going to just let you take it over.
Awesome. Yeah, so I would just start my story by saying that I have always been into self-discovery. I think even when I was younger, I became very quickly obsessed with, I guess you could say, the self-help realm, you know, and I was always into spirituality and just learning more, very interested in discovering sort of, like, I would ask myself the question all the time, why am I here? What is the point to this life? What's going on here? You know? And so I ended up working in the wellness field for many years, as a massage therapist, like you said, and as an energy healer, always looking for ways to feel better about myself, you know, and just discover more of who I am. So over the years, a couple of key things really happened for me to get me into hypnotherapy. One is early on, I did discover plant medicine, which was extremely healing for me and helped propel me forward in healing so much of my inner child, right? I mean, we actually have way more than one inner child, but those different parts of us that are much younger. And then that ultimately led to working with Marissa Peer. So what I was looking to heal for myself, and so much of what I felt from my early years was a fear around being seen, a lack of confidence in who I am, and how that really kicked in for me was, as an energy healer and a massage therapist, I felt this need. I wanted to transform my life even more. I wanted to step out more. So when I wanted to do that, I felt lost. I felt I didn't have the confidence. And, you know, I just felt like it wasn't available to me. So the long and short of it is I was going through a lot with the plant medicine, and I discovered Marissa Peer. When I came across what she does, I didn't come across it as wanting to be a hypnotherapist or from that place. I started to receive rapid transformational therapy. And I began healing those parts of me that needed to be healed around being seen, around my self-confidence and all of those things. And so eventually that led to me saying, wow, I love this so much that I want to offer this to other people. And so then I began that process, and I've been doing this for the last few years. I've primarily do rapid transformational therapy, as well as I bring in a lot of my energy healing into the session. And I like to say that I help people bring all the parts of themselves home so that we can feel whole and complete. And really we get to live the life that we're meant to live when we do that. So not to go on and on.
So just so those that are not quite familiar with, can Can you explain a little bit about the rapid
Yeah.
piece?
Transformational
Right.
therapy.
Yeah.
So,
The rapid piece.
Yeah.
rapid piece, right.
It was a mouthful.
It really is a mouthful. It really is. You know, there's a lot of different modalities out there, so it's really good to clarify. Marissa Peer is the one who developed rapid transformational therapy, and it's a particular system that includes hypnosis as well as NLP and different things we put together to get to the root cause. So what is the root cause of what's blocking you from having, creating, being XYZ? And then, healing that. And we do it through the subconscious mind. So it's all about going into your unconscious or subconscious. People call it different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where the root is of all of our programming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does a regression, right? That really pinpoints where this has started, and then from there, like you were explaining through suggestions and like some people could call them affirmations, but the repetition, right, of certain words and suggestions, listening to that over time rewires your brain. But I would have to agree that it's a fairly quick and rapid process. I mean,
really
the way, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that like within 2 months, I experienced a radical change in my life. Radical. Like I always say I did all sorts of different therapies, for PTSD and, EMDR and group therapy, individual therapy for 10 years. And yeah, I shifted and moved some stuff, but not really. Like there was always something that kept me there. But the moment that I did hypnotherapy, Marissa Peer's rapid transformational therapy, what it felt like, the best way that I can describe it is that all of a sudden, it felt like somebody took a vacuum cleaner to my brain. And everything was all of a sudden like clear and clicking and moving and working smoothly, like more in flow than it had ever been before. And I really noticed a massive transformation in who I was.
Yeah.
So it was 2 months.
And it's amazing because what you're describing, I love the story is key, right? Because the thing about it is when we get into the conscious mind, which is only 5%, that's not the place we heal from. Your subconscious mind, like that part of you, whatever was causing that PTSD and maybe it was a younger part, maybe, whatever it was, you got to not only release the emotions that were associated to that, but you got to understand it from such a deeper place.
Right.
And that really is the key right there. And that's when we have an event that happens to us in our life, and trauma is different things to different people. What's trauma to one person may not be trauma to another, and that's okay. We're all different. But when we have a trauma, the trauma, actually, the event itself is not it. It's how we react to it. Uh-huh. And a lot of times what happens to us is because we don't have the resources to handle it or whatever. So we can exile that part of us.
Right.
It's like they get stuck or frozen in time. And so throughout our life, we can live and then we get triggered. And we're like, why can't I stop this? Because it's not logical. It's a frozen program that's inside of you. And through hypnosis, we can go in, we can open up that program, we can actually release it from the root. Absolutely. And then your brain was able to rewire. Your mind was actually able to rewire. And that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, like I said, the regression piece was the part where somehow the way she does it just took me to very specific moments in my childhood where I had no idea that even represented anything for me. But then once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, right? And that from there, then, that piece of awareness, I feel like just opens up the gate for you to be able to shift it and change it, and then there's the wiring process, right?
Sure.
But I wonder if you could just explain to our audience a little bit about hypnotherapy, because I think a lot of people think that when they go into hypnosis, that you're going to tell them to do things, and they're not going to be able to,
Parlor tricks.
say no, and they're going to give you their bank account numbers and,
all the things, right?
Right.
Yeah. So a few things about hypnosis, which everyone can relate to. We actually all go into hypnosis all the time on our own every single day. It's just a more relaxed brainwave, which is the alpha state. So when you're, for example, driving, you've been to a place many, many times, you'll often go into a state of hypnosis, meaning you just kind of go into that daydreamy place and you get there and you're like, I don't even remember driving here, right? Because your subconscious mind took over. And in that state, it's a slower brain wave. You're just relaxed. So as a hypnotist, as a hypnotherapist, when I'm taking people into hypnosis, number one is they always have to be in agreement with me. So in agreement in the sense that you're going into a relaxed state. That's really all it is. And if I were to suggest something to you that you did not agree with, you would not agree with it, even in hypnosis. You actually are totally in control. You would say, no, I'm not receiving that. I'm not doing that, right? It's not like so deep that you can't control yourself. Or I could say, hey, write me a $50,000 check and we'll call it a day.
It's not mind control. It's not mind control.
We're not using trauma here. In fact, what you can expect to experience in hypnosis is really relaxed. It's just really relaxed. You can get, it opens up your creative centers. It can open up. In fact, a lot of times you feel even more aware. You feel even more aware.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense because you're not in your thinking then.
You're not.
You're not, right? Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's very inviting.
It is, and it's so beautiful because your subconscious mind speaks in metaphors.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with people, I'm talking to them, right? And I'm also talking directly to their subconscious. And I'm saying subconsciously, my subconscious to their subconscious, I know you know exactly where to go. I trust you emphatically. And I know you're guiding this client to their highest healing. And the subconscious really comes up with these amazing metaphors, these visions sometimes that people have, which can be real life. Like you said, you go into a regression, but also can be a metaphor. It can also be a metaphor, which is information for them and information for me as the hypnotist working with them on what it is that the block could be or what it is that they can create, that they have the ability. So can I share a little story? Because I think
absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
So I had this amazing client just the other day who felt blocked around his voice. He has this incredible voice, and around his writing. But anyway, it was so amazing what his subconscious did. I was taking him through regression, and it took him back to the second grade, and he was asked to sing in front of the class. And I'm thinking, okay, he describes it and how he loved it. And the teacher, he said, it was beautiful. It was amazing. And then he says, and the students even made fun of him. And I'm thinking, you never know what's going to come out. And I'm like, oh, maybe they made fun of him and it hurt him. And he says, no, I did not care that they made fun of me because I knew how amazing it was, how incredible that I had channeled this, this beautiful voice. And so his subconscious mind had taken him there so he could integrate that second grader into him, to bring that into him today as an adult, to have that confidence and to, own his gift, which I thought was just amazing.
Yeah, you know what's coming to mind to me, just going back to the reference that you made at the beginning in terms of plant medicine, right? Because what I find that is really powerful about plant medicine is that it puts you in this brain state where, whether it is because the logical mind's volume is lowered, or maybe it is so it's opening up your own intuition, or maybe that intuition is just guidance that comes from somewhere else, doesn't really matter. But it very much does something very similar to what you're describing with hypnotherapy. Because once you get into that brain state, right, that you're lowering the volume on the logical mind and you get this guidance, whether it comes from the inside or it comes from your higher self or it comes from God, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. But it amplifies this wisdom. It amplifies this knowing, right? Like to me, is very much like a knowing, right? I can tap into, without a doubt, that knowing and know that it's true. And I feel like it's very similar with hypnotherapy as well. Like when you're in that state, you just know.
Mm-hmm.
You do just
Is
know.
that the same experience for you?
Yeah, it is. Just touching on the plant medicine again, we have different parts to us that protect us. You know, it's like different parts of our ego. And so when we take the plant medicine, it just feels like just adding to what you're saying, giving it even more language. A lot of those parts get to go to sleep. Those parts that are like keeping us from they think they're protecting us, and they are in a way, but they're also blocking us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when you do the plant medicine, you have those parts, they go to sleep. So, and then you get to step into, it's like almost your true self. And the medicine, and then you've got your subconscious mind, which the medicine's working through. You've got your soul, and it's like it all comes together. And that's why you get to have so much healing to, you know, to parts that you couldn't get to before, to your true self. With hypnosis, it really is similar to that too, because I'm actually guiding and directing them into the deeper part of themselves, which is also what the medicine does. So we get to quiet everything else, you know, kind of out and go into a deeper part that we're not able to easily access on our own always. We're really, you know, we need the help to do that.
Yeah, and we get wrapped up in our thinking a lot, right? Yeah. You know, like, and we're conditioned, right? You know, like right from day one, we're sort of conditioned around, you know, thinking our way out of problems, you know, analyzing and using that, you know, the right, left part of whatever part of the brain it is. Yeah. And like you said earlier, like it's really only 5% of our functioning. The real meat and potatoes is that other 95%. And I love what you just said about metaphorically speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, you know, I was just reading a book by Richard Rohr, who was talking about how mystics think. And every mystic, if you go back and look at, you know, from Buddha and Jesus and the Tao, they all spoke in metaphors. They all spoke in metaphors. You know, so it makes total sense to be connected in that space that you're going to speak in metaphors, because that's where creativity comes from.
Oh, like, so cool.
Yeah.
The subconscious mind speaks to us all day long, I believe, in metaphors. It's a matter of just tapping into it. You know, we ignore a lot of things because it's just normal in our world, right? We've got so much virtual reality at this point. It's like candy to our consciousness, you know, and in order to really feel into things, sometimes we have to invite ourselves to get quiet and disconnect. And, you know, we can ask questions and like even receive a color. And like, well, what does that mean? You know, your conscious mind doesn't know, but your subconscious mind does know. It does know. And when we're in a state of hypnosis or we're in the plant medicine, we are receiving new information. Mm-hmm. We're able to release old information and then receive new information. And so simply put, honestly, that's what I'm helping people do. I'm helping them see the old information, and then we can release it. And then let's bring in the new information.
Something fresh and new. Yeah. Exactly. Because when you think of how you solve problems, you know, analytically, the only thing you can rely on is your past memory, like your past experiences. Mm-hmm. There's nothing fresh and new in your memory banks. There's nothing. It's all old.
Well, it's your recollection of a past experience, which is not always accurate either.
And it's not accurate.
It's what we remember. Yeah.
Oh, heck, absolutely.
It's what we remember in the moment.
I remember taking my wife to my childhood province, right? And I said, "Oh, you got to go on this hike and see this mountain." You know, as a kid, I used to climb this mountain all the time. Well, I live in BC, and the mountains in BC and the ones in the prairies are a little slightly different, but I remember it so differently, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Your perception, our perception of everything can change throughout our life, but especially just linking it back to, I'm going to just say, for example, you don't have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind is constantly linking. Maybe you didn't grow up in a household that was safe. Your parents didn't help you with your, self-esteem. They weren't helping you develop that. You're having negative feedback all the time. And so your subconscious mind is always trying to keep you safe. And remember, you're not good at that. We don't want you to get like yelled at or, neglected. Like last time you did that, you got, and it's always going back and touching on the past in that way. And so in order to change that, we really get to dive in and say, hey, you know what? This is the new program now. I'm not that little girl. I'm not that little boy anymore. I don't live in that house. This is where I am right now. And so it's always that kind of, process that we get to go through to actually reparent ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's the way I like to think about it is that, just in NLP language as well, right? Like we have a set of glasses that we wear, which is our filter. Right. And it just really helps you swap those glasses, right? Put on different filters, get a different perspective, get a higher perspective on things. So really pull yourself out of the experience and see things from a different point of view. And that's where all of the wisdom comes in. That's where the ability to let go of things comes in, the ability to see others and their point of view comes in, which is crucial. Not only in hypnotherapy or plant medicine, but also in coaching. That's what we do as coaches, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we help people swap their glasses.
Exactly. And then that's the thing though. See, this is where we get into embodiment and what you're talking about, because even with hypnosis and plant medicine, we will get the healing, right? And then it's up to us to continue to remember, oh no, I'm wearing these glasses now. I'm seeing it this way. This is what I'm doing, and what practices am I bringing in on the daily basis to remember that, to make that to keep that as my new emotional coding, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And by the way, as coaches, any kind of coach, we're not telling you which glasses to wear. We're just helping you see that there's different glasses that you could be wearing, right? And then the choice is always of the person that's being coached, right? Because I think there is a misunderstanding there, not just with hypnotherapy, but even with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
The coach is just going to do this for you, or the coach is going to tell you what to do, right? Or the hypnotherapist is going to rewire you that, in a way that they think is best for you. But truly, it really is unlocking your own ability to decide what that filter is that fits you in that moment, or what the perspective that you can now accept.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so interesting. It is so true. And really, and also something to remember too, is that when we make a change like that and we say, okay, this is what I'm stepping into this role now, right? We get to remind ourselves of it. And we have to understand that the mind really likes what's familiar. So the devil can be way more comfortable than the devil you don't know. Even if the devil you don't know is awesome,
right?
And the devil is not so awesome. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just inherently to really understand that have that knowledge is good, because then you can say, okay, I get it. You know what? I'm feeling a little anxiety right now. I'm stepping out, I'm doing this new thing, but it's okay. It's okay, because I know that it just means it's something new. It doesn't have to be something that's absolutely terrifying. You know what I'm saying? It's exciting. It's new. I haven't done it before, and we all have to practice that in one way or another if we are moving through our own expansion. Right. So,
right. And noticing uncomfortableness is part of the process, right? It's like that's part of change. Change is never designed to be comfortable. Because that tells you you're in a transformation, you're changing, right? So it's a signal. That's all it is a signal. But there's one key word that you said right in the very beginning, and that's understanding.
Yeah.
And I think, like when you relate it to gravity, right? Like gravity, like I can't see it. I could see it work, all that kind of stuff. But, the more I understand about gravity, the more things I can do with it. And I think this is kind of what you're pointing to, is the more we you teach people or have them understand what's going on behind the scenes, they're able to do more. Like Fatí is saying, like you understand that those glasses aren't permanent.
Right. 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 And yes, the incredible point about change, right? That's like, I think that's probably the hardest part for people.
Well, the scariest part, I think, maybe.
The scariest part, well, the part where like either you push through it or you go back, right? Yeah. Because that happens too, right? When you hit that thick phase where the change is actually happening. And I love the reframe that you were offering, right? This is just, like we need to reframe that moment. That is where the change is actually happening. But it's often like felt as a difficult moment, right? Because we're trying to change a part of ourselves that's been like that sometimes for our entire lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Rick was saying, it's not designed to be comfortable. It's actually through discomfort that change happens, right? But oftentimes I find that people do revert in that moment. Like they just like get stuck in that moment, and it gets too hard, or it's like they don't think it is what they thought it was going to be, right? Well, it's on the other side of that actually the change is going to happen.
Where the gold is, yeah. Yeah, I think that a lot of us do that. I would say that definitely I have that experience, right? And we get to just know that whatever it is that we're moving towards, that we're stepping into, it's not necessarily linear. Like we get to step into things sometimes, feel the fear, react in a way that maybe we're like, well, I could have done better,
Right.
But then that's okay, because we still have the awareness when we come out of it and go, okay, I can see what happened here, and you just begin to work with it. You begin to do the dance. I wanted to comment also on understanding and offer a word that I really love when people use sometimes is inner standing, because through going through the subconscious mind, it's like it's not a logical understanding. It's actually like almost like a knowing and an understanding is just the words that come through, because you are not only you're understanding it, but you're getting the feelings at the same time, and you're like, oh wow, like I'm in it, like I get this, and now that I have this full body, knowing, now I can let this go and see where I want to go from here.
Yeah, oh, it's powerful. But it's interesting, like, I don't know if anybody that I've ever come across that recognizes that there are probably things in their life that they could change or improve. Right? It's like, or if they don't know, just ask their friends.
Exactly. Yeah. Or they're right.
Yeah, things like that. But it's interesting though, like when you have this awareness and you're going through the transformation. There's points where I find myself personally, it feels like I'm going backwards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's almost like this detoxing energy is happening. Where
so true. Yes.
It's like, why am I having all these outbursts all of a sudden?
It gets worse before it gets better.
It seems that way.
Yeah. I experienced that actually with hypnotherapy too, that all those things that I was trying to rewire, they got bolder. For a short bit before they got better. Yeah. I always think of it as like someone dying, grasping for,
Oh, it's big. Your subconscious, and everyone's different with that, by the way. Some people some people do sometimes, like, depending on what the issue is, if it's not a really old issue, you know what I'm saying? They can just okay. But a lot of times people, what you're talking about, Fatí, is they really experience, they might even, like you said, go through a mourning period. They might need to sleep more. The body can react in different ways to the release. You can have to go to the bathroom more. You might feel off. But when you get to the other side of it, it's just because literally you're going through a rewiring process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to remind yourself of that, because again, when you don't understand what's going on, it feels like, oh, this isn't working.
Right.
Like, and that could be a thought that could cancel any appointments, right? You know, it's like,
Yes.
I'm not going any further. This is too uncomfortable.
Right.
It's not working, right?
I had a client who's a really good example of this. Actually, she came to me originally because she had a lot of pain in her neck and shoulders, very bad nerve pain. She's had a lot of trauma in her life. And so we went into the regression part, and we were working on, I was asking the questions of her subconscious mind, like, why are we holding this pain in the neck? What is this, right? And so she went back to a lot of trauma. Now, after the session, that pain completely stopped within 24 hours. Like, we're talking severe pain to no pain. And here's what happened. That pain, which she was not able, when she was a little girl, did not have the resources to deal with that level of pain. She simply did not have it. She was a child. And so her body, it's like her body took it on for her because she just couldn't understand it. And so that was released. And then what happened was, then she started to feel the emotions around what was actually being, the emotions that were stored in her body. And then she did get through to the other side of it, but it was just really interesting. That session was very powerful, and it really did take her like 3 or 4 days. And then she was able to get to the other side of it, like, okay, you know, we did that, you know what I mean? But it's fascinating what your subconscious does, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I found in my personal experience, once all of this work was done, right? Really, you know, the mental, the emotional, the hypnotherapy, you know, like the subconscious work, I still had some stuff stored in my body, and it wasn't, you know, and it's still ongoing, some of it, right? But it wasn't until I somatically released some of that I finally felt like it was completely moved, or like at the very least, like didn't have such a strong grip on me.
I love that, actually. I think that, yes, because we get to heal in so many different ways. And every time we go through a healing, right, we're taking a layer off. And we're such multi-layered beings, you know? And so really, we get to continue to keep the healing. I think the body and the subconscious mind are so linked, because your subconscious is stored in the body, actually. It's almost a shame that we call it the mind sometimes, because it's not. It is in your body. It is in your heart, right? It's the feeling part. And so a lot of times that healing, emotions gotten so stuck in the body, it can even create chronic illness and just pain and all the different things. So I think somatic healing is extremely powerful. Yeah.
The other thing that you were highlighting was this notion of your true identity, your true self. Right. And we all, I know in transformation, we talk about that, you know, what is your true self and what is at the core? And you talk about layers of healing and removing layers, things like that. And I've, you know, from personal experience, it sounds, you know, a lot of the tension and angst that we have is holding on to those layers. Yeah. And the tension of our inner self trying to come through those, trying to express itself, but is always veiled over by that conditioning that you're talking about, that you're there to help remove from, right? I don't know if you would like to speak about that a bit more.
Oh, I would love to. This is definitely one of my favorite topics. What happens to us when we have a lot of little parts of us that need to be healed is they have very loud voices. So if you're, you're feeling unlovable, and that could be an overarching theme for actually a lot of people. And they could be very successful in the world and all the things, but it doesn't matter, because deep down inside, they don't feel lovable. They've got these parts, more than one part probably, that is stuck in that timeline, and they have their reasons for why they're unlovable. And so that voice is so loud. And until we can actually receive those parts of us and say, hey, you know what? I see you. I hear you. I feel you. And I want you to know that I'm here for you. And this is also what's available now. This is also what we're stepping into now. When we can do that and we can really heal, they get to be quiet. They're actually not the loudest voice anymore. And so when that happens is when we really get to see who we are. And on top of that, I would add those younger parts of ourselves, actually, they know what our gifts are. Mm-hmm. They know that, because, you know, you remember that from when you were a child. If you have children, you see that, you know, like they just have these inherent gifts. We all have that. And so when we can meet those needs, that's when we get to really discover the truth of who we are and what we have to offer. And that's so much of what I work with. And I'm just going to throw and say that plant medicine really offers that. For me, plant medicine really, it showed me so much of what my gifts were. And then the hypnosis and work going into RTT helped me really dive in to clean up a lot of those inner voices that were not supportive of that, so that I could really step into it more, you know? Yeah.
Well, we'll create that actual change, right? That integration. There's so much talk about integrating plant medicine, right? Well, how do you now, all this stuff that now you see and you're aware of, how do you now integrate this in your life? How do you become this new version of yourself, right? And hypnotherapy sounds like it's an incredible, well, it doesn't sound like, from my own personal experience, it's an incredible tool to accomplish that.
Absolutely, because you're going right into where the root programs are, and that is the absolute key. And then, of course, you know, this is why I also, well, when people work with me, and of course, this is the rapid transformational therapy process as well, but you're getting an audio to listen to, because part of your change is you committing to listening to that every day. You're just retraining your subconscious mind to lay out the new blueprint.
Right.
You know, and that's also where coaching comes in and mentoring, because stepping into taking those daily actions, you know, inch by inch, taking those actions and really stepping into the new belief. It's not all just happening up here in the head. It's a full body, full multidimensional experience, you know?
And it has to fit into your life, right? So having that coach guiding you, having that coach holding you accountable, having that coach like cheering you up and being there when you feel like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, or this is getting tough, you know, it's crucial in actually that achieving that transformation. Because oftentimes I find that's part of the problem with self-development.
Yes.
Oftentimes doing it by yourself is not the way. It can be done, but it's a lot harder, you know, to just fight up against yourself, right? Because we have so many shadows, right?
Well, how many times have you tried to fix something and you're trying to hold a bolt and wrench and a hammer and everything all at the same time? It's just impossible. But, you know, Fatí, you kind of alluded to integration, and I'm curious, Amy, on your experience of, like, there's the part of the session, right? Yeah. And whether you have a weekly session or bi-weekly session, then there's 7 days in between session. Yeah. So can you speak about the integration and how the work continues? Yeah. Because you're not with the coach anymore, right? So it's like there's the insights that happen in the session, but now, you know what? I'm back on the streets of New York, and
life is happening, right?
Life is happening, yes.
Yeah. So what I like to do with people is I used to do more one-on-one sessions, and then I always actually do follow-ups with people. I really like to check in with them and see how they're doing. But now I do more like 3-month transformational work with people. So we do several sessions, and I'm offering coaching in between and giving them embodiment practices. And it's all based and tailored on what is going on with them in particular. It is just very, very important that once we take on a new belief system, that we actually step into taking action on it. It solidifies the rewiring. You're saying yes to you. You're saying yes to the new program, and your subconscious mind is going, okay, cool. We've got this. All right, let's just move a little further, you know? And so for me, if I do the you know, one-on-one session, and that's the primary thing, I'm definitely following up with people, but I I have found that I like to go a little further and we go a little deeper into the layers, and then we're able to really move into a bigger transformation that way, for sure. Yeah. And even with plant medicine, it is the same. You can have the most miraculous, amazing, cosmic experience. And if you don't bring it home with you, you know, you can ride unicorns in the sky, but how are you bringing it home, right? So there's an embodiment piece to that is just really, really important. And I know for myself, one of my biggest issues in the past was always about embodiment and not taking the next step and going, yeah, okay, I'm there, but I'm just not doing this, you know. And until I really got that, you know, things didn't shift as quickly, for sure, as I would have liked. And so I feel very passionate about that.
And I think that's an important thing you're pointing to, is that next step, right? Is that, like, you've got it almost becomes intellectual at that point, like prior to that step, right? It's like, okay, I get it, I see it, I can understand this whole inner child thing and all. Mm-hmm. Now I'm facing the boardroom, and my fears are coming up again.
Yeah,
I understand where they're coming from, and now it's up to me, right? It's up to me to take that next step, and it's that next step that solders the wires together.
Oh, it does. And
it's the becoming, right?
Yes.
The embodiment is the becoming, right? Now you have become this other person the moment that you do it, right?
So well said. That is the perfect word for it, is becoming. And I think that I believe for myself too, this has been such a profound part of my healing, is that I have an ongoing dialogue with these parts. And I teach it to my clients. I get scared. You know, I have to have a talk with my little girl sometimes and say, hey, you know what? We're good. Like, what are you feeling? I acknowledge what I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, why? You know, I get clarity. And then I just say, okay, well, we've got this. I can do this. You know, life is still life. And you just get more and more tools. And the more awareness you have, the easier it gets. The more you get to step in, and you will feel fear. That's not going to go away, of course, because you're growing and you're expanding. But then the gold is on the other side of that fear, you know? Yeah, it's all about awareness. And once you have, with my clients, I always tell them, listen, especially depending on what showed up in their session, I'm like, that little person, you get to talk to them now. They're a part of you. They live with you. They're in you. They're not exiled. If you're scared or you're having a challenge, you know, I had this client he came to me for weight loss. And what was very clear was that when he was younger, he grew up in a very war-torn kind of environment, very difficult. He was never safe. And he learned it was not safe to show your emotions. Also, he's a man, like that's another thing. And so his body was actually taking on all of that for him. It was like, we need to hold this. The body says, I need to hold this. I need to hold this. So he's overweight, right? And so he has, in that session, established such a beautiful, deep connection with those parts of him. And that's part of his healing, is to connect with those parts, you know, when they come up. And through that, it's actually healing his body as well, of course, his everything. But you know what I'm saying? It's just so deep, and so it doesn't end.
No, and I like the inner child. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Foster, but he talks about, you know, the inner child. Like, would you know, when the feelings come up, it's like they're knocking at the front door, and would you turn away a child that's lost? You know.
Yeah.
And no, you welcome him in, and you nurture him, and you take care of him, and you do all the things that you know is appropriate for the moment, you know. So it's it's fascinating. I'm curious. I know we're coming up to a little bit on our time now, but is there anything you would like that we haven't covered or would like to say to the audience? Any words of pearls of wisdom?
Let's see here. I think we pretty much covered everything, but I would like to say that it is such a profound experience to connect with these parts of yourself. it can bring you so much joy in your life, and it can literally melt. It can just melt so many blocks because you're able to fully actually just receive yourself. And when you fully receive yourself, that's when you can really step into who you are. And it just feels so empowering and life-changing and transformative. And I'll go even further with it to say that when you can do that for yourself, then you also get to you help other people have permission to do that for themselves. It's just such a beautiful thing to be able to share. And so, yeah, you get to be more of you. You get to realize that you are actually whole and complete, and you get to become your own infinite source of everything you need and want when you do that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. And you have a robust website, I Am Wholeness.
Thank you.
And your tagline, are you ready for a life upgrade, which is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Rick, I was wondering if you are able to put that in the chat, because I'm not able to for some reason.
Okay.
But I need otherwise we'll do it after it's posted.
Yeah. I'll put these links in right now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
If you want to get in touch with Amy, you will have all her links. If you want to learn more about hypnotherapy, like I said, it changed my life. I can attest to that. You can reach out to Amy and connect with her. And if you have any questions about what we shared here, also put it in the chat. We'll be happy to address them. You can just tag us or Amy. And we love to have a dialogue, open dialogue with you, and answer all your questions. So do let us know. And yes, and otherwise just, follow, subscribe, give us some love, help us amplify our impact. We are here talking about all this stuff to help you see that there is a way out of pain and the challenges you're facing, and that change is possible for anyone and everyone. So if you found it helpful, just forward this episode to anyone that you think may find it useful or can gain something from it, or just listen to our podcast when it drops. An honest look, anywhere where you get your podcast.
Thank you, Amy, for joining us. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.